I bought my first property in 2013 and made a ton of mistakes, costing me tens and tens of thousands of pounds. So in this video, I'm going to go through the top 4 mistakes I made, how much each mistake cost me, and what you can do instead to avoid doing the same. I bought this property when I had no clue what I was doing without any education. So if you just watch this video to the end, I promise you'll be ahead of 90% of people, saving you tens of thousands of pounds in the process. So let's get into it. So I purchased my first property back in September 2013, and at the time I was 23 years old. I still remember when I officially completed the property. It was a cool feeling because getting on the property ladder is like a dream for most of us, and to have done it at 23 was pretty sick. And I was thinking that all those weekend shifts at my dad's restaurant, cleaning tables, pouring pints, serving customers and saving money, it all paid off. But when the buzz of buying my first property started to wear off after a few months, I slowly started to think myself that buying a property isn't as cool as it's made out to be, and simply because I hadn't done it the right way. I know for a fact if I had done things the right way, not only would I have made more money, way more money, I would have been more eager to continue investing in property. But because my experience with my first property was so underwhelming, I didn't end up buying my second property until 2019, because that's when I started to learn more about property and started doing it the right way. So if you ever want to get into property the right way, I would never buy a new build house again. The one I bought was in a decent area. The development had its own remote control gates and everything. So naive me thought, great, new build, right? Everything's all new, I don't need to do anything to it, and I'll get a better quality tenant in there. But knowing what I know now, when it comes to property investing and making money from it, you do that by adding value to the property. So refurbing it, adding a new bathroom and a new kitchen, basically turning an ugly house into a new house kind of thing. But if you already buy a new build that's already got these things in place, then the truth is that you won't be able to add that value and make money on it, at least in the short to medium term anyway. And not only that, according to the land registry, right, so pretty legit stats, the average price of a new build is 29% more than existing housing, which means that you're basically overpaying nearly 30% from the start. So when it comes to an investment point of view, that naturally means low rental yields and less room for capital growth in the future. For context, the 2-bedroom new build I purchased for £105,000, right? If you take away the 29% premium that new properties statistically have, a similar 2-bedroom house in a similar area, just not a new build, would have cost around £74,550. That's a massive difference. Also, not to forget that new builds, they tend to be on smaller plots of land, making it less attractive to potential tenants or buyers in the future when the house eventually loses its new appeal. So new builds may be nice to look at, but not the best for your bank balance. Now, I didn't even realize this next mistake until like 2019, and that was paying off my mortgage. I know this is a bit of a touchy subject because every time I talk about it on Instagram or TikTok, there's a big portion of people who think that being mortgage free is the ultimate life goal, because that way we don't have any debt and you can live a stress-free life. And I get it. I was the same, and it's exactly because of those reasons I started paying off a mortgage. To cut a long story short, right, I started an online business in 2014. A year later, it blew up. I started making good money, and basically I couldn't think of anything better to do with that money apart from paying down the house that I had. If you think I was buzzing when I bought the house at 23, then paying off the mortgage at like 26 years old, I thought I was the man. I thought I made it. But here's the thing, and what you guys should really think about, whether I paid off my mortgage or not, right? Think about it. The rent on the property wasn't going to change. It was still 600 at the time. I wasn't going to get any more money for it just because I'd pay off the mortgage. The tenants don't care. Yeah, I didn't have any mortgage on it, so I was technically making more profit. But this is why it was a mistake, because instead of paying down like £95,000 into one property, I could have used that money to buy another 2 properties using a 25% deposit and rent them out, and I would have made a lot more money that way in the long run. To show you what I mean, let's run through some numbers. Let's go through an example. Because I had put down a 10% deposit on my first property, it meant that the outstanding loan on the 105k property was £94,500. Interest rates were low at the time. I don't remember the exact amount, but let's just say for argument's sake it was 2.5%, which seemed reasonable for 2015, 2016. So by paying off my mortgage early, I was able to save close to £30,000 £94,000, not bad at all. But if I'd used the same £94,000 and purchased 2 properties with a 25% deposit each and even got a 5% return, for context, I get around 15% on almost all my properties now, but let's just stick with the 5%. I would have made £4,700 per year, and if you then times that by 25 years, that's a return of nearly £118,000 compared to the savings of £30,000 that you made by overpaying it. But it's not just that, because not only would my overall return would have been higher, I would have benefited from the appreciation of 3 properties now instead of 1. I would have diversified my portfolio, so if in case something happened to one of those properties, I would have the other 2 to fall back on. And that's the reason why billionaires like Mark Zuckerberg and Kim Kardashian, who've got enough money to be buying their houses in cash, they still get mortgages, because these billionaires understand that mortgages are one of the cheapest forms of debt, and rather than paying down their mortgages, they can invest into things like businesses, properties, stocks, or whatever it is, where they'll get a higher rate of return and profit the difference. This is called leverage, and how pretty much everyone gets rich in the first place. So the first 2 mistakes I made were more obvious as time went on, and I didn't get to see the impact of them until probably after a few years. But purchasing the property under my personal name, I would say that mistake hit me straight away. First, because I was a higher rate taxpayer at the time. I had to pay 40% tax right off the bat on any profits I made from the property, and 40% is a lot. If I had purchased that property under a limited company, I would have had to pay 19% in corporation tax instead. So that's an extra 21% taxes I had to pay because of lack of knowledge at the time. Back then, I was able to deduct mortgage interest, but now you're not even able to do that. So if anything, purchasing under your personal name is probably even worse now. But that doesn't mean that you should all now go and open up limited companies. The general rule of thumb is, right, that if you have other income sources above £50,000, so you're a higher rate taxpayer, and you're looking to buy multiple properties, and you're looking to build a portfolio, then it's worth considering buying under a limited company. But if you're a basic rate taxpayer and your property income keeps you within the basic rate and you haven't got an interest to buy more and more properties, then I'd say it's more beneficial to buy under your personal name. So you need to consider your current situation, Section 24, and your long-term plans to go for it. And obviously, always speak to an accountant before you do anything. The good news is that I ended up transferring my first property into a limited company, so going forward things will be a lot better for me. But to do that, I had to technically sell my first property from my personal name to my limited company, so I had to pay stamp duty, legal fees, and capital gains tax, which obviously they all add up. Sometimes it's just better to keep your properties under your personal name, save yourself that money, and then if you want to buy any properties in the future, maybe you put them under a limited company. But yeah, speak to an accountant, guys. It's all in hindsight, but paying that extra 21% really stung me for a few years. And then on top of that, the extra stamp duty, the capital gains, and the legal fees, I would have easily, and I calculated this earlier on, that I would have easily saved around £15,000 if I just bought the property under my limited company. But you live and learn. The next mistake I got away with big time. It was my own fault, and it's one mistake that could have ended up costing me the whole £105,000. It's kind of embarrassing looking back at the whole situation now, but hopefully this gives you a valuable lesson to make sure your property is always insured, like always, and never forget like I did. So those of you that don't know, it's under your mortgage terms and conditions to make sure that your property is insured. So if anything happens, like catch a fire, gets knocked down, or whatever it is, the property is protected against it, and so is the lender because they're lending on it. The banks wouldn't normally lend you any money until you can provide proof that the property has been insured, right? So I insured it at the start and the next few years after that, but for some reason, and I don't know why, I forgot to renew it after like the 3rd year or so. And I know it's bad, it's terrible. And the thing with insurance is that it's one of those things that you don't think about it until something goes wrong, something wrong happens, and then you need it. So one day, right, my tenant sent me these pictures saying he started to notice some cracks on the wall. And then he followed up with saying something like, oh, I don't think it's anything serious. My parents had the same issue last summer because of the heat. I think it's pretty normal, but I thought I'd just let you know anyway. And just to let you know, they haven't done anything. And he put like a laughing emoji after that message. Now, I know a lot of you are probably thinking, how can you not tell that it's subsidence? But this was back when I knew nothing about property. I was a total newbie. And when tenant said it's nothing serious, I just went along with it, and especially because he was laughing about it. I know it sounds silly, property. Anyways, it was when he sent these pictures a few weeks later, I knew something was wrong, because check these pictures out. I mean, look at the one with the ruler and how wide the gap is. I still don't know what subsidence was at the time, but all I knew was that it was something serious because there were cracks on the outside of the wall as well. So I did a quick Google to diagnose the problem, as you do, and yeah, that's when I figured out that I had subsidence. And to make things worse, that's when I realized I had no insurance. To top it off, I was in the process of transferring this property to my limited company, as we've just talked about, and the surveyor had to come down to survey the property, and when he did, he gave it a big fat 0 for valuation. So you can imagine how terrified I was at the time. My property's got subsidence, which is getting worse by the day. The gaps are getting bigger. I have no insurance, and the surveyor has just valued it at 0. There's a happy ending to this, because luckily the property being a new build, it was covered by the NHBC for the first 10 years. My insurance claim took a few years for them to finally fix it, but at the same time I couldn't exactly complain because I had no other options without any insurance. This could have ended way worse because properties with subsidence are extremely expensive to fix if they can be fixed, and it's very hard to offload them unless the property's price is heavily discounted. I got very lucky. Don't take the risk, guys. Always be insured. Now I work with an insurance broker who thankfully messaged me when my insurances are up for renewal. But yeah, that was a very, very close call. So there's a few other mistakes I made with my first property, but they're all minor compared to the 4 that I've just covered. If you just avoid these 4 mistakes, you'll be in a much better position than I was after my first investment. Ending on a high though, I finally managed to transfer the property a couple of years ago. It's now under my limited company. The property is in fantastic condition. It's gone up in value by £50,000 since I bought it, and I've got good tenants that pay me rent and look after the property as if it's their own home. Despite all the mistakes I made, it just goes to show that if you hold a property for long enough, the beauty is that over time, most properties are very forgiving. But if you want to save yourself some more misery and some more money, then you should go and check this video that I'm going to put on the screen, which is 6 very difficult properties to avoid. Apart from new builds, there's 5 other properties that you should really stay clear from, and that's what I talk about in that video. Click the link on the side now, and I'll see you soon.